Hello, my name is Kiran Joni. This is the second video in the introduction series of the Eso-Loop Framework, an entrepreneurship self-organization framework for a complex, dynamic, and interconnected world. Let us start this video by looking into the name of the framework itself. The ISO in the Eso-Loop framework stands for entrepreneurship self-organization, where entrepreneurship is viewed as a complex adaptive system with self-organization tendencies. Here, the dynamics of entrepreneurship is understood as the dynamics of self-organization itself. Loop signifies the importance of feedback loops, which is a necessary condition for self-organization to take place. Without the closure of loops, we cannot say that a system is self-organizing. So that's where the name Eso-Loop comes from. Another key point is that this is a framework, a design based on complexity theory, a theoretical foundation through which complex systems are studied, understood, and explored across disciplines from pure sciences like physics, chemistry, biology, to social sciences, decision sciences, design, engineering, etc. In complexity theory, I particularly use the idea of self-organization or self-organization theory, which has roots in the works of scholarly giants like William Ross Ashby in cybernetics, Ilya Prigogine, who is a Nobel Prize winner in chemistry with his dissipative structures theory, Hermann Hacken in physics with his synergetics theory, and Stuart Kauffman with his work in theoretical biology, to name a few of the important scholars who advanced the theoretical understanding of self-organization across various scientific disciplines. So this is the theoretical foundation over which the Eso-Loop framework is built on. The next important question is, where did I get the design inspiration from? The theoretical foundation is strong. It is natural science based. It is very well reputed among scholarly community. But is there any successful approaches out there from which I got inspired for the design of Eso-Loop framework? Is it even possible to design something based on self-organization theory? What is the evidence that self-organization theory-based design actually works? These are all very important questions. Once people started to understand that self-organization is a ubiquitous feature in open, complex adaptive systems, scholars started to study this phenomena and found that self-organization is an intelligent way in which nature organizes itself to solve complex adaptive system problems in a distributed and adaptive manner, which cannot be replicated by top-down order or top-down prescription. Whether it is the dynamics of bees in a beehive, or whether the dynamics of human beings walking in a street, not bumping into each other, or the dynamics of ants foraging intelligently, coordinating with each other. Now, all of these are examples of self-organization dynamics. Based on this understanding, or over this understanding, scholars and practitioners started to design and experiment various solutions across various domains and problems based on self-organization theory. Many of these attempts to develop various solutions based on self-organization was a huge success. For the design of Eso-Loop framework, I am particularly inspired by one such successful approach developed based on self-organization theory called the constraints-led approach in sports coaching, or CLA in sports coaching. CLA is a pioneering approach developed based on self-organization theory in a human learning context by scholars like Keith Davids and many others more than 25 years back, with a large body of empirical work supporting it. This approach considers athletes and teams as self-organizing systems or systems with self-organization tendencies. And the coaching approach is about making use of these self-organization tendencies instead of relying on top-down prescription, which is a key feature of the traditional approaches to sports coaching. Now, when we look at the nature of traditional approaches, what we see is a kind of top-down order imposed on the system. There exists a body of knowledge that got accumulated over many years that prescribes the agent what to do, how to practice, how to train, etc. Further, complex tasks in this approach or skills in this approach is often decomposed or divided into smaller manageable components. The coaching involves repetition and block practice of the same tasks over and over again until proficiency or efficiency is achieved in these particular isolated task parts. The CLA, on the other hand, is based on the fundamental understanding that sports is a complex domain and hence doesn't believe in having an objectively best way of doing anything. Since sports is a dynamical system, a complex dynamical system, the best thing to do at a point depends on the current unique contextual disposition. This approach understands this. The coaches here tries to understand the current contextual disposition of a particular system that includes the athletes and the performance environment. Then they dynamically design and introduces various enabling constraints to enable the athletes to explore the state space to find their own solutions through the process of self-organization. Thus, it is based on self-organization. It is not prescription based. It is becoming very clear that the general propensity of the traditional approaches to coaching, sports coaching, is to prescribe solutions. There might be some exceptions here and there, but still, generally speaking, it is based on prescription of solutions that assumes a kind of know-it-all attitude. Okay. On the contrary, the CLA or constraints-led approach is about enabling self-organized solution finding. So this is the key difference between these two approaches. Now, I have already told you that the CLA is one of the key inspirations that led me to the design of Eso-Loop Framework. While I was exploring CLA, I was thinking about the domain of entrepreneurship, which is far more complex than the domain of sports because of the reasons I have discussed in the first video. That is, entrepreneurship is an unstructured or ill-structured complexity domain. The problem is that even though entrepreneurship is an extremely complex domain, the real problem is that the solution space in entrepreneurship is filled with linear one-size-fits-all approaches like lean startup, business planning, and other similar approaches. Lean startup is an approach in which an Ivy League elite comes up with the best way to do entrepreneurship. He found the secret sauce of doing entrepreneurship, and he prescribes this reductive approach to the entire world. I consider these kinds of approaches as a kind of puppetry in which entrepreneurial agency is being hijacked by an external agent through the prescription of a decontextualized external artifact. Now, if someone behaves according to the dictums of approaches like lean startup, the entrepreneurial grounded agency is compromised. Now, self-organized solution finding in such a context is not possible. Self-organization never happens under the conditions set by lean startup. Another point I want to highlight is that at the one end, entrepreneurship is an extremely complex domain. On the other hand, the linear reductive one-size-fits-all approaches like lean startup in entrepreneurship are scaled across the world. That is bad, super bad. Because in the case of traditional approaches in sports, as we have observed just now, even though many of these approaches are reductive, linear, top-down, all of these are true, these approaches are mostly contained in the local. It is not scaled across the world. If some approach, somebody's idea is stupid, it is going to be remaining in the local. It is not going to be scaled across the world, at least not in the scale that is scaled in the case of approaches like lean startup, business planning, etc. These kinds of approaches are being equally promoted in elite and local universities around the world equally. Okay, it is used across the world by universities, schools and accelerators and to teach and promote entrepreneurship. I consider these kinds of approaches being scaled as a kind of collective cultural brain damage that happened to the entire society for the last decade or so. Some scholars also consider this as a point and calls it a McDonaldization of entrepreneurship, education, learning and mentorship, etc. It is now obvious that these kinds of one-size-fits-all approaches are blocking contextualized solution finding. They also eliminate all kinds of varieties and diversities from a system. They also influence the development of further tools. Okay, so if lean startup is developed, the next tool will be very much similar to lean startup. So these are all serious issues we need to consider. Now, this led me to think about the need for a complexity-friendly design solution for entrepreneurship, and that ultimately led me to the design of Eso-Loop Framework. Now, I was really inspired by CLA, but I cannot directly take CLA and apply that into a domain like entrepreneurship, because CLA was exclusively designed for a domain like sports. And also because entrepreneurship is an ill-structured or unstructured complexity domain. There is no football ground or running tracks that limits the structurality. Wherever the entrepreneur runs will become the track, and wherever the entrepreneur play will become the playground. And it cannot be predicted a priori. And it is also not decided by the entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is just a co-evolving system. Now, even though I cannot use CLA directly to the domain of entrepreneurship, the core theoretical foundation or design foundation of Eso-Loop is exactly the same as CLA. That is the dynamics of self-organization and constraints. Apart from this, for the design of Eso-Loop Framework, I took inspiration and insights from various other approaches for the design of Eso-Loop Framework. You can get a comprehensive understanding of this in the paper, but some of the examples are American pragmatism, enactive cognition, synergetics approach, guided self-organization approach, which is fairly new approach developed by scholars from the computational and cybernetic tradition. The Canevin framework, which is a applied complexity model developed by Dave Snowden, Alicia Herrero's conception of context-sensitive and context-free constraints, anthropological enskillment developed by Tim Ingold. These are some of the examples of ideas that I took from other approaches, other models for the design of Eso-Loop Framework. Some of these are based on complexity theory itself. Some of them are complexity friendly. Some of them have no direct connection with complexity theory or anything like that. But still, the thing is that I tried to bring together an ecosystem of ideas that are useful for a domain like entrepreneurship. So this is the end of the introduction, second introduction video. What I'm going to do next is to give an overview of the framework using the abstract of the paper. In the first part, I will discuss the problem of entrepreneurial complexity and the weakness of contemporary thinking. Secondly, I will introduce you to the theoretical foundation over which the Eso-Loop framework is built on, and then I will introduce you to the Eso-Loop framework and maybe spend some time discussing the dynamics of the framework. So that's my plan. See you soon in the next video.